this is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
What's going on, spectators? Well, welcome back for Season 3. It was a long and winding road that even included multiple well-intentioned imposters, but it's finally here. As some would say, we're back in the saddle again. I'm your newly constructed T-1000 host, Jake, and metaphorically sitting next to me on this wild roller coaster of comic love is the man who invented beard lasagna. The one and only Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Well, you can't get a beard this nice without adding layers to it, right? So the beard lasagna is the one and only. If you guys want tips on how to do that, follow me on TikTok at beard lasagna 1986. There you go.
Gotta have layers, right?
That's right, man. Layers.
Onions have layers. Lasagnas have layers.
Yeah.
We all have layers.
Beards have layers. Beards are friends too.
If this is your first time joining us for Spec Tales, thank you for giving us a listen. Spec Tales is a comic book podcast that asks collectors and creators, what's your grail tale? Each week, we explore new stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
This week, Jesus, well, let's start off with the pink elephant in the room. This week is episode 1 of season 3. It took us a while to get here, and we apologize to all the listeners out there who, were wondering what each week are they coming back? When are they coming back? And then we had those scrolls and everything that happened over the summer.
Yeah, that invasion that happened. That was pretty freaking awesome. But yeah, man, it's been a long time coming, but it's finally here.
It is.
Finally.
We did it. And we both moved. You're in a new house. I'm in a new house. That's crazy. Yep. You've got a new microphone. It's kind of, it's like a new and improved us.
Yeah, we kind of went into the cocoon or whatever, chrysalis stage. Do y'all remember that? I don't know. And then we came out and we're a beautiful moth.
We're still ugly ducks. Yeah, that's fine. I think we do need to start everything by thanking the listeners for sticking with us. If you're listening to this and you are new, that's awesome. But if you're listening to this and you are a longtime listener, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you stuck with us, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate you. Don't worry. Your patience is going to pay off in spades starting today.
And every week, 16 weeks to be exact, we are doing 16. We wanted to be transparent with everybody. We're going to do 16 weeks back to back through December 13th. Every Wednesday, you can trust that there is going to be a new Spec Tales episode, unless something catastrophic happens like aliens or something like that.
Which is not so far-fetched now, but go ahead.
Exactly. So through December 13th, we're going to take a very, very small break for the holidays, and we are going to be back again in January for another 16 straight weeks. So we're guaranteeing, and that's what we're defining right now. We feel like that's a really good promise we can make so that we can deliver everything for you for season 3. So that's at least 32 weeks, and that's not going to include bonus episodes we're doing for the Scarce Army on our Patreon, and that's also not including any bonus episodes that we do in between.
Yeah, you guys know we like to do our special editions, and we have some on the horizon that I think are going to be pretty cool. So yeah, there's you guys are getting at least 32 weeks in this season, which I think is like Jake said, is something that we can commit to, and we're happy about, and we're excited about to give to you guys.
And speaking of those scrolls we mentioned earlier, we do need to say thank you to those individuals who stepped in. And we're going to start with Lisa and Guido. Lisa from Comic Book Couples Counseling and Guido from the Dear Watchers podcast, two of our favorite podcasts. They stepped in for the first episode. Then it was two regulars on the show. A little bit of an unorthodox episode, to be sure. But Newbie from Newbie Comics and Chris Vancouver Comic Junkie stepped in and delivered one hell of an episode as well. And lastly, but certainly not least, we had Chris from the Oblivion Bar podcast and Botter from the Shortbox podcast, who is going to be an upcoming guest, by the way. They took the final watch on those scroll episodes, and I will tell you, each pairing brought their own brand of flavor to the Spec Tales podcast. And while nobody was quite what Jesus and I are, nobody was glasses in the beard, they were still extremely fun to listen to. It was the first time I think I was really excited to listen to my own podcast because I didn't know what they were going to say.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting being on the other side of that and kind of listening to Spec Tales as a listener versus as a host, and not knowing what's going to happen, which is pretty cool, if I do say so myself. And also, you're right, man. Thank you guys. Thank all of you for being scrolls and helping us out. I thought it was cool. I hope everybody that listened to it thought it was cool. But yeah, we're going to be doing more stuff like that. But again, honorary Spec Tales family members now. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
For life. So last couple notes before we get into the first episode of season 3. We want to just give everybody a little bit of a heads up. Look out for a few surprises this season. We're going to be introducing a new segment. Ooh, we are going to be doing potentially, there's question marks here, a live event? Is there? I don't know what that. Yeah, what? I don't know. And then giveaway related things galore. Who wrote the word galore in the notes here? I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
There's a lot of good things that are on the horizon, and by horizon we mean like not like the sunset Shane was, riding into, but more like I don't know what's a good sunset event horizon. That's not a horrifying one.
Event horizon. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, that's a great one.
And then there's another random note here of Attack of the Killer JJs. I'm not sure what that note means. It's not as if I wrote it myself. But apparently many JJs are going to attack.
Yeah, so there's a term called doubling down on JJs. We double down squared on JJs. So
is that like a quad?
So there's
a lot.
I don't know what. I'm not good at math.
With so many,
yes.
Yeah, with so many JJs. I mean, are we doing more shirts? Maybe I shouldn't be asking that question when we're on the recording. Maybe we'll get back to that later. You think we should? Maybe the listeners. Hey, are we doing more shirts, listeners? You let us know. Spectators out there, holler out. But Jesus, I feel bad. We've been talking for like 100 minutes now, and we really need to get to our guest. I mean, 1,000,000 minutes we've been talking. For our first guest of what is probably going to be the greatest season of Spec Tales of all time, we had to go big. One might say we needed to take a leap from the top rope to secure this guest. Do you see what I did there, Jesus?
Subtle, very subtle.
Very subtle. He is somebody we've been wanting to have on the show for at least a year now. We're incredibly honored to call him one of our dedicated Scarce Army patrons, which is incredible still, kind of blows my mind. By day, he is a comic collector extraordinaire. That's his day thing, right? That is what he does during the daylight. Now, at night, though, he wears zebra stripes as a WWE SmackDown referee. He is our good friend, Jason Ayers. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. I appreciate you having me on. This is cool, man. Long-time listener, first-time caller, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, man. The way Jake put it is like, yeah, your Clark Kent is reading comic books and collecting them, and then you put on a super suit and you go out and you're a SmackDown referee, man. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it, honestly. I think it's kind of starting to flip a little bit as far as which one's the day job and which one's the night job at times, right?
Well, judging by all the massive cabinets, and for the listeners out there who can't see what's going on behind Jason, he has the equivalent of like Scrooge McDuck's vault, just of comic books, just behind him. I think he's taunting us, honestly, with this.
So how many books would you say are in your collection, Jason?
Well, according to my CLZ app, which is the only way I know anything of what I actually have in those things, I'm just north of 15,000 books at this point.
Holy crap, man.
15,000.
It's
Oh my
out of
God.
control.
That
Yeah.
is, I mean, that is borderline addiction, right? I think.
Not it's way past borderline.
I think there's like there's like a Comic Books Anonymous out there for you that you could probably. Hi, my name's Jason. I have an addiction to comic books.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason. Hey, but we are unfortunately we are not here to support you quitting the addiction. We're actually here to feed it. We're the opposite of Comic Books Anonymous.
Yeah, we love a good enabler.
Yeah, exactly. We are here to enable everything from collecting the weekly comics that are on the shelf to collecting grails, which we are very much looking forward to. With 15,000 comics, it's almost impossible for us to guess what might be your grail. I mean, 15,000. I mean, you probably have Action Comics #1 in there. I don't know.
I wish. No, it's there's a lot of dollar bin schlock buried in that 15,000. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, those are still.
Those are the best though, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, those are the best. You go, dollar bin hunting and stuff, and you find some cool books. That's what it's about too. The hunt.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about the job, with traveling and being in a different town every Thursday and Friday night. There's a lot of comic shops out there that don't have good picked through dollar bins. So it's good way to fill in those holes in those runs.
That's what I was going to say too. I think you are probably the most continually traveled guest that we've had. I think it's Ben from Cheese and Keys, right? He travels a lot.
Yeah,
but
that really helped
more
his collecting too. That really helped his.
Yeah.
Because he would do like swap meets and stuff when he would go to new cities for work related things.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
He would
it
do
really
swap
was.
meets. Yeah, I mean he what is it called? He documents it on his Instagram talking about like hey, I'm gonna go to this one, I'll show you guys what I got and just stuff like that. So yeah, but I think you and him, you more, I think, because you do it every week. He doesn't do it as often as you do. But that's a real unique advantage, I guess, to being a comic book collector, where you get to go to these different holes in the walls that like you said, not many people have picked through their dollar bins and just get to see some of that stuff in there. And I bet you have stories galore.
Man.
So I'm really excited.
Well, I was gonna say, so I imagine through your travels, you end up you go to reoccurring cities, right? Some cities you go to more often. Do you have maybe not like a dedicated like LCS that's your LCS in these cities, but do you have favorites?
Yeah, there's a handful, and then on my travel bag that I take with me everywhere, it's covered head to toe on both sides with stickers from podcasts that I'm friends with, kind of like you guys, and LCSs that I hit when I'm out and about. I try to kind of get stickers from all over the place and here and there, and it's kind of, some people get passport stamps. I get LCS stickers.
Yeah, hell
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you mentioned one of them in Lafayette, right? I think that you like going to.
In Louisiana. Yeah, there's a shop there. Actually, they're not open anymore. But my friend Jeff down there had a shop that we used to, every time we would come through the town, myself and a couple of the other referees would swing through there and say hey to Jeff and hang out with him, and got to the point that more than anything, we just kind of became friends. So that even after the shop shut down, which I think he's been closed for a year, maybe something like that. Even the last time we were there, we hung out before the show, grabbed dinner.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's what I really feel. That's what LCSs do. Like, they create a community right around it. And yours is obviously unique because you go everywhere. But like my LCS is like, I know the owner. I know most of the owners around here that I go and hit up, and I could talk to them about stuff. I've been doing it for over 10 years with them now. So it's just pretty cool. It's just pretty cool that you were able to get that relationship with him.
You got it.
Yeah, for sure. And
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna make fun of Jesus, but that's probably not worth it.
No, I was gonna say, even with that though, like still got my local shop here in Orlando that I hit every week for my Wednesday pulls, and got a pretty good relationship with my guy Danny down there, to where at one point I would literally send him a text on Tuesday and hey, here's what I need, and roll in there Wednesday, and he's got it ready and waiting for me in my pull box. So
that's pretty cool. That's a good LCS right there.
that's a good.
You got him on.
That's a good.
You got him on speed text. I mean, that's a relationship. So everybody, you heard it here first. Jason is the most well-traveled comic book collector in the United States. The United States government have him on a watch list for his comic collecting deeds. So watch, hide your LCS, hide your favorite comic shop, because he's coming to town. No, I'm just joking. All right. Well, Jason, this is not new to you, but we really do need to kick things off. So we need to get to the first segment. Are you ready for me to press this button over here?
Let's do it.
Recent pickups.
That is right. The recent pickup segment. This is one of my favorite segments because I get to talk about me and something that I recently read or picked up, and everybody knows how much I enjoy doing that. But before we get to me, which is definitely going to be, without a doubt, probably the best recent pickup of this grouping. No offense to you, Jason. All offense to you, Jesus.
Wow.
Before we can get to my stuff, let's get the other stuff out of the way. How about we do that? Hey, Zeus, you want to go first?
Yeah, I have 3 books today that I want to talk about that I started reading this week. All unique, all with their own, I guess kind of unique touch to them. So I've been reading like a madman lately. I don't know why. I'm not saying why, but I've just been reading a lot. You have to read a lot nowadays. But I'm going to start off with this first one called, and I already had the original copy of this. This is the variant issue of it. It's called The Sacrificers. By Rick Remender, Max Fuimara, and Dave McKeag. It's just kind of weird.
That's a sweet cover
story. I don't know if you can see the chicken people, Jake.
Yeah, I see the chicken people.
Person.
Yeah, it's a chicken person. The Sacrificers.
Yeah, so it's a chicken people story. Rick Remender has a whole page on here talking about how David Lynch is kind of his motivation for this type of storytelling on this this story, and he's just not going to say a lot about it. He's just going to let it play out and let you as a consumer just consume it in the way that he wants to tell the story. So it's really slow burn, but it's just a lot going on, a lot of crazy different stuff going on. I can't really explain what it is because there's just not a lot as far as threads going there. It's just you're just giving a lot of information. So I'm really excited about it. The artwork is awesome. It's pretty dope. And it's pretty interesting. I like Rick Remender. Rick Remender usually pays off. So
I have to say I'm really digging what Remender is doing lately. He did the Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, which we loved, done by our good friend Andre, who was the artist on that. Same thing in a way where it's like so hard to describe in the first couple of issues. Like you liked it, you really enjoyed the storyline, but through the first few issues, you really couldn't just turn to somebody and say, "This is exactly what it is." You know, what it's about, because it was so hard to describe. It's slow burn stuff, and it feels like Remender is just kind of letting loose on all these. I'm assuming it's through his Skybound, right? Is that the imprint?
Man, I can't even. Yeah, it is Image Skybound.
Yep. So, he's just been kind of letting loose with all of the creative juices he probably was holding back when he was doing the Big Two stuff. Really.
Yeah. I agree, man. I agree, and I think we're better for it, right? We get to enjoy the stories. Yeah. Next book, by Kelly Thompson, Mattia D. Ulis, and then Hassan Otsmain El How, is The Cull. This is it right here, The Cull, Cull. So this one is pretty interesting as well. It has a pretty big, I guess, flip at the end, kind of telling you where this story is going. This has a lot of Stranger Things vibes. It's a group of teenagers looking for a sibling of one of their friends. And then what they fall into is something really crazy and out there.
Do they fall into a cull? Is that what they fall into? A cull?
No. It already happened.
Oh, I see.
So
all right.
Yeah, way to ruin it. Way to ruin it, Jake. Way to ruin it.
It's in the title. Well, I was guessing the most obvious thing. All right. No, but that's
Uh,
cool.
yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend it, man. Kelly Thompson is the one who wrote Bitch Planet, which I think just got option 2, I think. So definitely, she's a great writer. I'm gonna be picking that up as well.
I don't think
Last
you
but
can
not
say
least,
that, by the way. This is a children's program. You can't say that word.
what?
Planet?
Oh yeah, I knew it. I knew it. I should have. I won't say that again. Sorry, guys. World, bitch world. Uh, next one is from friend of the show, and the way I described this to you, Jay, kind of sold you on it, and I want to describe it as well. W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Simmons. It's called Swan Songs #1, issue #1. And I asked you if you knew who Martin Simmons was, and you were like, "No, I don't really know who he is. His name rings a bell, but you don't really know who he is." Well, he's the artist on Department of Truth with
Yes.
James Tinian. So this is basically, it's called Swan Songs #1. This is Maxwell Prince basically doing Ice Cream Man without the running thread of Ice Cream Man in it, and without the too much existential, I guess, horror in there, but it's still that same vein with Martin Simmons on the artwork. So it's like Department of Truth marries Ice Cream Man, and it's really, really awesome. It's a really awesome start to this series. Swan Songs is not a series. I think it's also an anthology where he does one issue with one different artist every issue. So this is the only one we get with Martin Simmons, but do not miss it. Do not sleep on this one. It's a really, really good start to this Swan Song. So those are the 3 books I've been reading. Those are my most recent pickups, and I recommend all those 3.
Yeah, I love the way that W. Maxwell Prince handles these anthologies, the way he does them. And it seems like that's just his thing, right? Like he is so good at it. And his writing is so smart. I guarantee he could tackle a long linear story, narrative if he really wanted to. And it's not to say that he's not doing some of those elements. I think he just likes the freedom, right?
Well, we talked about that when he was on the show. Remember we talked
I
about it.
remember when we talked to him on the
Yeah,
show.
I don't know if you remember, it was episode just on this show itself, right? I don't know. But yeah, he does want to do that. He's talked about it. I think he kind of brought that back up with Art Brute a little bit, because that was kind of a series. It wasn't a one-shot kind of deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he also, if I'm not mistaken, he talked about some other stuff that he's going to be coming out with that he hasn't been able to,
Officially
talk about
announced.
yet.
Yeah.
Yes, so we're excited about that too.
All right. Well, 3 very respectable recent pickups. I have to admit, I have to give you, bonus points for that. I'm going to go ahead and give you 3 stars, right? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do 3 tater tots. Yeah, 3 tater tots.
3 tater tots out of 2 tater tots. That's a great start.
It's a great tot start. Jason, you've got to follow that act. I'm going to let you go
tough
next.
bill to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty far behind on my actual reading.
That's all right.
Backlogged substantially. But as most of you know, my main focus is X-Men, X books. That's just what I do. I've heard some pretty insane stuff about what's been going on with Fall of X and Hellfire Gala and everything leading up to that. I'm not quite there in my reading yet, but
hey, we're not here to judge. You busy guy. You got stuff going on. No worries.
A thing or two, right? The one recent pickup though that I'm really excited to dig into when I finally get the chance to do it. I've heard some really glowing reviews on Marvel Unleashed. That just dropped.
Yes.
Was that this week? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, actually. My buddy Kyle Starks wrote, I'm a sucker for a pet book. Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew is kind of my all-time guilty pleasure series. I'm excited for anything that kind of leans into the animal side of the Marvel universe, especially with Kyle on the writing duties.
Well, yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because they also just announced. You're right. They did just drop that, and I am interested in it. They also, one of the characters in that is Frog Thor, or the Thor version.
Yeah.
But they just announced that they're releasing. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray or whatever they're releasing it on, Loki season 1, they're releasing like special features that are going to include a deleted scene with the Thor frog, and the frog is voiced by Hemsworth himself as the frog.
Wild.
Yeah,
Love that.
So, but apparently you have to get I don't know. They still sell Blu-rays? I didn't even know that was still a thing. Who owns a player? Anyway, they're doing it somewhere. I'm assuming it'll be available online at some point. If it's on Blu-ray, somebody will just put it on YouTube. So we're gonna see the scene, whether we pay for it or not. But I'm looking forward to that much of it.
Yeah, so Kyle Starksman wrote I Hate This Place and also Where Monsters Lie. So he's one of my favorite writers right now. So I had no idea this was coming out, so I'm actually gonna pick this up. So I wrote it down. So yeah, I'm interested in it. This is pretty cool. I'm looking at it right now as we speak. Also, quick correction. It wasn't Kelly Thompson who wrote Bitch World. It was Kelly Sue DeConnick. So I was off. So apologize for that, guys. But
Get your Kelly's crossed.
Yeah, I'm not 100% right now. So apologize for that.
I should take away one of your tater tots, but I'll leave them there.
Yeah, do it. Go ahead and do it. It's well deserved, unfortunately.
You know what? I'm gonna take away the top from you, and I'm gonna give it to Jason.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that recommendation, because I'm different. And I was gonna ask you too. Do you read independent a lot, or you're more to the big two, Jason?
No, well, I do. I went through a phase. No, there for a while with Danny, when I would send him my list and I'd roll in on a Wednesday, he'd always have an independent book here and there, whether it be an Image book or a Aftershock or what, just kind of some of the really sort of out there stuff, because the shop he was at the time really focused on the independent books a fair bit. So that really opened my eyes to a lot of really good stuff. You mentioned Department of Truth. That was great series up to now. Crossover for the first few issues I really dug. There's a lot of good stuff, and I mean, even going back a ways, Invincible's one of my all-time Hallmark series. I'm so glad that's being adapted into something that actually is good. Even
well done, well made. They're taking their time. I can't wait for season 2.
Yeah. And so, part of that too, I wanted to ask, because, you mentioned that when you were younger, you were stationed in Japan, and you would go to the store on base, right? And you would get the floppies from there, right? And you would ask your mama. So I have a couple questions on that. I just have 3 quick questions on that. Like, one, was it popular? Were comic books popular on base? Like, would you see them selling out, and would you see other kids getting it, or even adult soldiers getting it and stuff there? Like, was that a big thing?
So as far as adults, I'm not really sure. The years I was overseas, it was like 92 to about 97, give or take. So 5th grade to sophomore year for me, because I'm old. And but definitely amongst myself and my group of friends at the time, the 2 things we gravitated towards, and the 2 things that kind of glued us all together, were comic books and professional wrestling. I distinctly remember with Age of Apocalypse, when that dropped, and X-Men Prime specifically, myself and my buddy at the time both come running at each other with the embossed cover, like, oh my god, have you read this?
But what a time to be in that age group. I mean, you say old, and I kind of say, man, I'm a little jealous. Like, during the prime part of the 90s, and you were getting some of the best comic books we've ever seen. I mean, it was an explosion with X-Men. I mean, just the big 2, and then you go and you look over, and Image is kicking out Spawn and a bunch of other badass comics, and then wrestling, the other thing that you were into. I mean, talk about heyday. It was just hell of a time to be in that age bracket. Yeah,
peak pop culture.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then music. I mean, you were probably listening to Bop while you were reading the
No comment. That's so funny.
Trying to kill my cred over here.
Yeah.
I have no credit.
And then the second thing is, I mean, we all know this as collectors, right? Like, on base, they had those special comic books with the Mark Jewelers inserts on them. Did you get any of those Mark Jeweler inserts?
Somebody mentioned that to me. I wasn't really aware that was where the Mark Jeweler books. You hear about them, obviously, the Mark Jeweler books and what have you. But I wasn't aware until, I don't know, maybe it was 6 months ago, somebody mentioned to me that's where a lot of those were coming through, was the military based newsstands and that sort of thing. So that's one of those things on my miles long checklist of of things to do. Once I finish, see behind me how far behind I am on sorting and filing and what have you. But here in 15, 20 years, when I finally get all this done, that's definitely on the list of things to check through. I'm sure there's got to be some in there. Because, from that whole period, pretty much everything, and I've still got everything that I picked up back then. Which was pretty much everything nice. X, even at that point.
Then I'm fairly sure you have at minimum like half of what you got had to be Mark Jewelers, man. Which is
like 7,500 of your comics.
And man, there's like some that are like so rare Mark Jewelers that they're not even like a key book, but because they didn't make that many of them for that one issue, and you get a Mark Jewelers and they're just so, I don't know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. Last question on that. So you're in Japan, right? Which Japan is its own thing, has its own culture, is crazy. Did they have manga or manga? Did that ever come into play for you?
Not really. So definitely on the basis it was just strictly American books, American magazines, American comic books, and what have you. But right off the base, obviously you go a little ways out, and there's one store that I went to specifically because they had Japanese wrestling VHS tapes.
Nice.
That back in the way back times, the only way you could get copies of that kind of thing was to take it home, make a copy of it, and trade it with somebody over the internet through snail mail to get a copy of, say, an ECW show maybe, or something that they've got. But
that's pretty cool.
The shop that I went to was a bookstore, and on the shelf right above all the VHS tapes, it was just manga, and I'm sure there was probably some anime buried in there that I didn't really look that far into the store, because luckily the shelf was towards the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, man. That was my question about because it's your formative years, right? When you're over there in Japan. So I've always had those like thought process on Japan and kind of how it was growing up there. And then I have another question, but I'll save this one for later, and it has something to do with Japan, but not really.
Sure. And I will say, I got the opportunity to go back a couple of times since then, with the night job, we'll say, and because we've done a couple of tours there over the years, and the last one we did prior to the pandemic, I want to say it was the Tokyo tour, and there was a shop that I went into. It was one of those multi-storied electronics and department store and toys and what have you, and they had a floor that was all, I'm not gonna say all, but a good section of it was all Marvel and DC toys and what have you. And they had a handful of graphic novels in there. And I'm looking around, whatever. So kind of a cool piece of my collection. I don't actually have it in the room with me here. I'd pull it out. Hardback Civil War collected and a hardback Infinity Gauntlet collected, but the text bubbles are all in Japanese.
Ooh,
all the way through the book.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's very unique, man. I hadn't even put two and two together that they would do something like that.
Does it read left to right, or does it read right to left?
That's what I was going to say.
The pages are identical. Everything is identical to the original releases. Just the text all the way through is redone in Japanese,
which is that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, because that's what like we're having to do with manga, right? Like I'm reading it in English, but I'm reading it backwards because that's not how I'm used to it, right? I have what's it called here that I'm sorry, I gotta get my glove out.
The gauntlet.
I'm reading Vagabond right now, and it's backwards, right? But it's all in English. So they did that, but they did it with comic books, and so it's backwards for whoever gets to Japan. They're reading it backwards. That's pretty neat. That's pretty dope. I didn't put two and two together like that. That's pretty cool.
Nice, very good questions, Jesus. You get your tater tot back. Because of the questions. But Jason's still beating you with 4 tater tots.
Yes.
Take my tots.
Yep. Now, Jason would have gotten 3, but he took one of your tots. I gave you an extra tot that was unrelated to Jason's tots. So
just random tots.
yeah,
That's fine.
just yeah. But it's right now. Jason is winning 4-3. But I'm gonna go ahead and just say that I've already got 5 tots in my pocket. I'm Napoleon Dynamite over here, and my recent pickup is one that we actually. So this was something that was sent to the podcast. We were sent this over the summer. This is the first opportunity we're getting to talk about it, which luckily enough for us, it's also, we're talking about it the week it was actually released. So our good friends over at Humanoids sent us a copy of this, and Jesus, it was in the middle of the move, and luckily they mailed it to my office of all places, which was nice. I didn't even know it was coming. And it is All Tomorrow's Parties, the Velvet Underground story. And our good friends over at Humanoids published this as a part of their Life Drawn series. They're doing a series, I believe they're more like biographic style comic books or graphic novels. So this is a singular graphic novel. It's like 130 pages. Sorry. Well,
192 pages.
Yeah. No, it's 181. How did you know that? You have
192 pages.
That's weird.
Maybe.
Are you looking over my shoulder? Anyway, there are a bunch of like bonus materials in the back as well, so it could end up being somewhere in that ballpark. Anyway, they sent us this, and I decided to give it a good read. The book dropped, available for sale August 22nd. So that's really going to be when this episode airs. It's going to be last week, I guess you would say. But this book is available in stores. And I'm going to tell everybody, the serendipitous thing about this book coming my way and timing with when we were releasing the first episode and timing with me moving into my new house and I have a new office space. So my last office was kind of a split space that I had to share with a lot of the family. And now I have an actual office. And in this office, I have a lot more room to display things. And I got to, after 15 years, I finally got to pull out my old record collection. Something that Jesus, you probably didn't even know. A lot of the listeners don't know. I used to love collecting records, but I basically stopped in 2008 because I had to pack up. I moved into a smaller house, started having kids, started losing ground, right? The kids stuff, took over, and so it was in storage for 15 years. My record player, my record collection, got all of that stuff out. And it turns out I actually have some valuable records. When I was collecting stuff, I was paying, $5-10 for stuff. I have some original albums. Like I have the original Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band vinyl, which is apparently in the condition I have it in, which isn't great, but good. It's still worth over $100. Like I was just going through, I have an original pressing of Ziggy Stardust. I didn't even remember buying it. And I had stolen a bunch of records from my dad. I have the original Woodstock album. A bunch of crazy stuff that I kind of forgot. So as I'm going through, getting my record player out and I'm listening to stuff, I'm really excited. I don't own one Velvet Underground record, none. So in fact, they just weren't really something that I had gravitated towards or listened to much. But this book fell in my lap, and it's all about the 1960s music scene and art scene, and it's about the bringing together and the creation of the Velvet Underground, who were like kings of the New York art and music scene during the 60s. And it's like kind of walking into this, not knowing anything about the band, but being a big fan of music. And I say I'm a big fan, and I get it. I don't listen to Velvet Underground, and you can, debate whether that's actually real or not if I'm a real fan. But I'm not claiming to be the greatest fan, but I do like music. I like records. This really was cool because I didn't know much about the band, so I just kind of went into it. I'm reading it like it's just a straightforward story, right? Kind of like the people who had no idea who Freddie Mercury was, and then they watched the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, and so, like
Yeah.
I walked into it like that. And I got to tell you, this thing has a lot of heart. This thing, it brings together the creation of music where obviously it's a book, so you can't hear anything. And I'm sitting there, bobbing my head with the audiences as the music is being played in the book and things like that. And you get to know the characters or the real humans within the book. And I'm also busy while I'm reading this, Googling to see if these individuals are still alive, because I want to know if they're actually still playing and if I can listen to them. Jesus, I will gladly share this with you, mail this down to you. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Humanoids for sending us this copy. I wish we would have been able to get an episode out sooner to kind of tell everybody ahead of time. That's just not how it worked, but I have, made amends. I messaged with our friends over at Humanoids. Our good friend who was a guest on the show, Jake Thomas, was the editor on this. And I did email with him back and forth a little bit, just telling him how much I loved it, and he agreed it's one of his favorite things that they've published. I should have mentioned, I totally didn't. Koren Shadmi, and I apologize for the pronunciation, Koren. Koren Shadmi is the illustrator and writer of this. He did everything.
It's pretty cool.
Great artwork, though. Great artwork.
Yeah,
it's just incredible.
I was looking through it, and this is one of the reasons why I like Humanoids is because they do things that are off the beaten path a little bit, and also like and this is also like what we talk about the medium of comic books, that it's so interesting and you can do so many things with it, right? Like this is basically somewhat of a biography or something like that of this band, and I think it's pretty cool because it's going to get people to like, Velvet Underground. I don't know anything about Velvet Underground. I'm just telling you right now, I don't know anything about it. But once I get my hands on that book, I'm going to read it. But it's just pretty cool. It's just pretty cool. Humanoids, I like what they're doing. I'm gonna continue to look into their stuff. I'm looking at their stuff right now. Besides this book, they got some other cool stuff on the way. All the way from like kid stuff to like fantasy stuff they got coming out. And they don't publish a lot, man. They're publishing 1 or 2 books or 1 or 2 graphic novels.
But the quality when they do print, like this is hardcover. This thing is, it's a beast, and it's really well done. The paper, everything, top quality, top notch. Couldn't recommend it enough. And if you're a music fan, like this thing is going to like live. Well, I'm going to send it to you, but I'll get another copy. But it's going to live on my shelf with my record collection.
Dude, small, I guess, world kind of. They published something in July called 8 Limbs from writer Stephanie Phillips. And Stephanie Phillips is from my old world of MMA. So it's Muay Thai champion. So it's about Muay Thai. So again, Muay Thai doesn't really have to do with comic books per se, but you could, like I said, the medium has so many things that you can make of it. So yeah, Humanoids, man, don't sleep on Humanoids and what they're putting out, man. Like Jake said, it's a lot of quality there.
I tell you, going back to, you asked me a while back or earlier in the conversation if I'm into much independent stuff. Humanoids, actually, Space Bastards that they put out a couple years ago. Self-contained little 6 issues or something, but a great little series. And like you said, the quality of what they put out, the actual, the hardbound, the paper quality, the printing quality is just fantastic. 8 Limbs, I'm actually really excited to read because Stephanie's a buddy of mine. Also, she's kind of gotten into watching wrestling of late, and she hit me up and said, "Hey, I know you're into comic books. Can you kind of give me a little? I hope I'm not throwing her business out there too much, but can you kind of give me a little insight on what's going on here? What's this? What's that?" And we've kind of become Instagram friends through that. And she mentioned about the book 8 Limbs.
It sounds to me like we need to feature her on this show and we need to read 8 Limbs and talk to her about that.
Yeah.
That sounds like, it seems like it's a consensus. We've all agreed she should be a guest, right?
Yeah. I think I had some, Twitter conversations with her. In my past life, like I mentioned, I was an MMA writer. But I haven't spoken with her anytime soon. So maybe Jason can make that that warm handoff to us.
Be glad to make the overture for sure.
Nice way to slide that in there. Another tater tot for Jesus on that.
Let's go.
Jesus. So I think we're all tied. That was a 4 tater tot tie between the three of us for the recent pickup segment.
I like it.
Yeah, well done by everybody.
New start to the season. New start to the season. Welcome home, Jake, to the new
welcome
season.
to the new season of Spec Tales, where Jesus doesn't always lose.
Yes.
But I had to give you one of my tater tots. That's the thing. So I'm like still like the I had 5. I gave you 1. So it's there's a balance there. Anyway, that brings us to the close of the first segment, but that also means we get to roll right into
Grail Tale.
Grail Tale.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
Everybody's favorite segment, the Grail Tale segment. This is the one where we get to ask, in this case, Jason, all about his comic book grail. Now, Jason, we had a little bit of a text exchange earlier when we were talking about what you might do for this particular segment. And you had asked me a question about whether or not it would be in the spirit of the segment to do something your own way. And I was like, Jason, the whole point of the segment is that everybody's grail tale is different and unique to them. So what you're asking is 100% in the spirit of the segment. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of turn the mic over to you and just, what were you thinking? What was it that you asked me earlier, and what are you thinking for this grail tale?
So, as I said before, the main focus of my collection is X-Men stuff. And actually the 3 file cabinets in the background behind me, they're all X books and X related books. Just prior to the pandemic, I decided I was going to start collecting the Claremont run.
Nice.
Which then started kind of getting to the point where it became prohibitively expensive for some of those older books. So I expanded and I said, okay, well, you know what? Let's work forward on Uncanny X-Men, which then begat something else. And basically my grail at this point is I'm on an every X book ever mission.
Wow.
All the ongoings, the miniseries, the one shots, the things that I didn't even know existed until I started doing the research. And actually even still to this day, I'll find things in dollar bins that I didn't even know there was such a bird. So that's basically what my grail is at this point, is everything. I'm a hoarder, I guess.
Well, that's why you live in an airplane hangar. He said 3 lockers behind him, everybody. He said the filing cabinets. What he meant was the airplane hangar behind him. You all can't see him. We can see. It's an airplane hangar, just top to bottom. I mean, 100 feet off the ground, just comic books stacked. They're bagged and boarded. Don't worry. And yeah, it's just so many of them.
Yeah. So, and like I said, as the mission kind of started out, it was small. I'm just going to do Uncanny. I'm limiting myself to I'm going to collect Uncanny X-Men, and I'm going to finish that out. And going back to my friend Jeff in Lafayette, he was kind enough to send me some books as he was closing down the shop, kind of filling in a lot of those holes on Uncanny. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, that's Uncanny all the way up to 544. Now where do I go? Well, I guess now I need to collect New Mutants, and then that turned into, okay, well, I guess I need to collect X Factor, which then turned into, okay, well, I guess I might as well just collect everything at this point. So, the travels help a lot with that, because like we said before, the shops all over the country, and actually all over the world, because I'll hit up Forbidden Planet over in the UK, and
nice.
Like I said, the department stores over in Japan and what have you, that just have random pieces, not as much. It's kind of spiraled out of control, I think is the best way to describe it.
Still though, that's
so
cool. Go ahead, Jesus.
Are you talking about, like, because man, I was fortunate enough to fall into a 90s collection, and you're talking about like X-Man, right, with an A, Generation X,
Done.
You got those already?
Already, yeah. I keep my collection in CLZ to track what I actually have when I'm in the shops, but I also keep a note in my phone that I can just kind of at a glance take a look at and see where I'm actually at. But yeah, pretty much anything you can think of as far as a a major ongoing run, whether it's Uncanny or Adjectiveless X-Men or New Mutants or Factor, Excalibur, Force, X-Man, Exiles, Alpha Flight, like all of
Wow.
the major stuff is done basically at this point. So it's
So
kind of
go ahead.
so aside from like the older Uncanny stuff like that, those are the holes that I'm trying to fill at this point. The um, giant size to about 102 is
Yeah,
the
the
major
pricey
focus.
ones. Huh?
Yeah, for sure. And then the like I said, the random one shots and the random mini series and the things that I never knew such a bird even existed until I saw it. When pulling through it. Oh, wait a minute, what's Magneto Rex? I didn't even know that book existed.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those too. So
Jeez.
so I guess it's also not just it's just mutants basically, right? Any mutants
Basically.
because so that's a little different animal there too with the mutants. So Deadpool, you doing Deadpool too?
I am doing Deadpool. That's one of the ones that I'm kind of filling the holes in on at this point. I limited myself to the teen books initially. I said I wasn't going to mess with Wolverine. I wasn't going to mess with Deadpool. I wasn't going to mess with all the individual characters. And then I was like, well, I mean, finished up the teen books. I guess I got to go somewhere now, right?
Yeah.
But I got lucky. I don't know if either of you guys have ever been to Pittsburgh. There's a store out there called Ides Entertainment. That's been there for ever and ever. Highest possible recommendation. It's right downtown. It's right next to the PPG Paints Arena where we do our TV tapings when we're in town, which makes it very easy to walk there and walk back with way too many books. But the thing that I love about Ides is you walk in, it's 4 stories of comics and collectibles and a lot of vinyls and just various pop culture collectibles of various types, right? But the first floor that you walk into is banks upon banks. I would guess to say maybe, I don't know, 40 long boxes worth, give or take, of shelves of just all dollar bin stuff. And then below those is drawers of the same amount. And below those is another drawer of the same amount of just all dollar bin. And with they were running a stuff a box for, I forget what it was, 50 or $100 or something, stuff a long box. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we got here. And pulled pretty much the entirety of the Larry Hama Wolverine run just out of those. So it's good when you find those kinds of deals to really jumpstart a missing blind spot in the collection.
Yes, I mean that run first of all is pretty. It's a pretty awesome run, the Wolverine Hama run. But man, I would say more you're a completionist versus a collector, right? Like you're trying to complete like the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe it's a little bit of OCD, maybe it's a little bit of like I said, a hoarder. But I don't know what it is exactly. But it's one of those things. It's like Pringles. Once you start, you can't stop, right?
I think that was Lay's. No, you're right. That's a perfect way. I shouldn't have corrected you. That's the perfect name for this show. Yeah, that's incredible that you've already gotten as far as you have. Although I guess you've been collecting your whole life, so maybe that's not quite as impressive. I don't know. But what would you say is the I know you said that you were having giant size through like 104 or something like that, the early part, but is there something like you are like a minimum, like when it comes to like giant size or the big ones, is it like I know that you're not necessarily a slab guy and I don't mean it this way, but like any grade, like any condition for a book, or do you have like, if I'm going to get a giant size X-Men, I want it to be in reasonable shape kind of thing?
Yeah. When I do finally bite the bullet and start crossing some of those bigger books off the list, and some of the more recent pickups that I've gotten, like the Frank Miller Wolverine miniseries and, some of those kind of iconic books that are not necessarily high dollar books yet, but aren't exactly dollar bin fodder either. When it comes to stuff like that, as long as it presents well and looks good in a bag and board and covers not falling off and not chewed up corners and that sort of thing, I'm not, it's 9.8 or nothing. It's if I can check it off the list, I'm fine with it.
Nice.
Yeah. That giant size one is one. It's obviously an iconic book. I know Jake has one, and he's gonna go into his whole spiel right now.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
White pages,
I'm not
yada
saying
yada.
nothing.
But what I'm saying is that book is hard to find in a decent, grade, because it's a square bound book, right? So it's square bound. So the glue on there messes up. I mean, people read the book. I mean, it's a good book to read, right? Like, so those books to me are whenever you're completing stuff, it's the hardest to get in decent. Because even then, there were so much too. People are rarely going to keep them raw because they want to either maximize their profit on it or preserve it, right? Like they don't want it to mess up any worse than they messed it up whenever reading it as a child or what have you. So yeah, those are some of the obstacles when collecting those square bound books. So you know they're out there. I mean, for sure they're out there, and you go find them. It's just gonna make it a little bit more challenging for you to complete on that giant size number one.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things. Like I don't have a single slabbed book in my collection, not one.
Whoa!
I don't.
You don't
It's not
want
my thing.
one, or you just not your thing.
I don't. Yeah, I don't have any desire. If I get a book, it's a book. It's not, to me. It's not a poster to put up on the wall or a commodity to flip. It's a book, right? So I want to be able to go over to that drawer behind me and maybe pull out the second drawer of the second file cabinet and pull out Generation X or something if I feel like reading it, and I don't want to pull up Marvel Unlimited. I want to be able to access these stories and see the artwork and see the penciling and the inking and just all the things that go into making these books so iconic, right? Like, you can only see so much from a cover.
Totally get it.
For sure.
Totally get it. And in many ways, I sort of envy your approach to that, because I do have some slabs. Of course, we've talked about them a lot. Actually, from something that Jesus and I had recorded earlier this week, I have this next to my desk here. This is my copy of Famous Funnies 214, which is my 100% favorite Frank Frazetta cover from 1954. And it's a really, really super low grade. And in this book, this book's super scarce, hard to come by, but it was something where I just wanted to have a copy. Now, in this particular case, if it would have been for sale raw, I probably would have still pulled the trigger on it and bought it. But in this case, like no pun intended, but in this case, I do have a certain sense of, you know what, the cover was why I wanted this. Like this Frank Frazetta cover was what I wanted, and the condition is so low that case, at least I know it's preserved. Like I'm not gonna come up here and see that my dog ripped it apart or something like that. Not that my dog has access to my comics. He doesn't have opposable thumbs, but if he did, I would still know. Anyway, so that like I do have that OCD where I worry about the protection of it. So certain books I have slabbed and certain ones I don't. And I do realize that I flip books to buy other books that I want. Like that Frazetta cover, I got it because I flipped other expensive books in order to buy it. That was a part of, that's the deal you make with the devil when you say, okay, I want that book, but I got to get rid of this one first. And so that's a part of the game that Jesus and I play as far as collecting goes. And I guess to reiterate what I said earlier, I sort of envy your ability to just say, I'm gonna keep these stacks in my airplane hangar here, and I'm never gonna. I don't need the slabs. I know that there's a lot of friends we have that are similar. Jesus and I have friends, like other friends that are very similar in that they don't want nothing to do with the slabs. Just don't want them.
Well, here's the thing too, real quick, Jason. Before we had a friend that was just like you, right? He said no slabs. I want to read them, and then I think didn't we give him a slab, or he bought his first slab or something, or we convinced him to get a slab or something, and then that was the beginning of him buying a bunch of slabs. just to preserve them, just because he liked the covers. I'm not saying that's gonna happen with you, Jason, but
Well, fast forward a year, we'll double back on this conversation. If I get to the point where I do start pulling the trigger on those bigger books, it may be a whole different story because like you said, good luck finding a giant size one that's not slabbed in a presentably decent shape. But
They're out there, but yeah, I totally get
for sure.
it.
And one of the LCSs here in town actually had one on their wall books at one point.
Oh, really?
I walked in, it literally stopped me in my tracks, and I'm sorry, can I look at that just a second? And of course, the white glove treatment, and they pull it down off the wall and dust it off and hand it to me, and they're staring at me with the intent look the whole time, and I'm like, I just want to hold this thing for a second. Like I'm about to hand this back to you, but I just want to say that I held this. Okay, all right, here you go. All right, thanks.
Well, in their defense, and I mean this as a compliment to you, like it's going to come off negative. I'm going to forward this, but it's going to come off negative. But I want to say this as a compliment. But like looking at you, even through this camera, you look like a runner. And so so I'm sure they were like, hey, we got to watch this guy. He looks fast.
That's false, but
That's cool.
I've got a rule: I don't run unless I'm being chased. So,
yeah, we have a similar rule about bears. As far as
yeah, don't put Jimas with bears together, man.
Yeah, you got to watch out. Bears are attracted to Jimas.
So one last question on your, or at least for me, and I don't know, Jake is ready to move on, but you mentioned in the past original artwork from Alex Ross, I think it was.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to dabble in that?
Sadly, no. I living in Orlando, obviously there's the Disney Springs right there, 20 minutes from my house, 30 minutes from my house, depending on traffic. And there's a Marvel store there at Disney Springs, and every time I go in, there's at least one Alex Ross, and it's usually prints, I'm sure, judging by the price. But I stop and I look at it, and I'm like, okay, today. Oh no, today's not the day. Today's not the day. Maybe next time. Today's not the day. But it's one of those things that like is on the long-term bucket list that maybe like I said, maybe in a year if we do this again, and you'll see in the background not so much file cabinets, but all Alex Ross original artwork, because I came into the lottery at some point.
I just wanted to ask that because I don't know, for some reason I felt like, I don't know, I think we've been looking a lot into original comic art and kind of how that as collectors is kind of and I was telling Jake that I saw somebody post on Instagram that they had the original cover artwork for Silver Surfer #1, and I was like, man, that's just so dope. Like he has the original artwork for that iconic issue, right? Like, and obviously it's worth a ton now, but at some point people weren't looking into that stuff, right? So like which one? And I think Alex Ross is one of those that obviously we all think his artwork is phenomenal and really cool and beautiful even, right? Like, but I don't think a lot of people are looking at it from that standpoint of collecting the original artwork from it. So that was definitely something that kind of caught my eye or caught my attention when you mentioned it previously. And I was like, man, I wonder if he's already dabbled or not.
Yeah, sadly, no. You mentioned original art. I'll not dive in too much. The only time that I almost thought about taking out a loan or a mortgage on the house or what have you, came across on my Twitter feed, and I don't know if you guys saw this when the original art from Amazing 129, the Punisher cover.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Across, I was like, oh man, I don't. Ooh, maybe I could sell a kid. But yeah, that's the stuff like that. Those iconic ones. That's the kind of thing that might give me pause. Whether if an Uncanny 141 or something from the Dark Phoenix saga came across, that might be a different story. But
yeah, I think genuinely that's kind of the where the collecting road leads. We've had a lot of individuals come on and talk to us about their grails, including both Mark Waid and Eric Larson. Both of their grails were just original artwork from comic books so it's one thing to have the comic book and to hold that above everything else, but then it's like when you level up, right? When you construct Voltron, it becomes grabbing a specific page or a cover or something. And I think Eric Larson went so far as to collect literally the original artwork for every page in the book. I can't remember what Hulk it was, like 156 or something like that. But he just got the whole book. Mark Waid was tame. He got just one page out of his favorites. So yeah, it's an addiction that has lots of rabbit holes to fall down. All right. That is going to bring us to our last and final segment, everybody.
Speculation.
That's right, the ever famous, ever fearful speculation segment, the one that has everybody shaking in their boots if they don't actually speculate for a profession. And for Jesus and I, it's just another day in the park. So that's how that phrase works. Jesus, you're always so good at this one. I'm going to let you kick this off.
All right, man. So in I guess honor of our guest today, I'm gonna say this whole set, right? This whole series, because he's a completionist. You need to be a completionist with these books. So I'm going to go. I was thinking, much like Do a Powerbomb, right? Like Do a Powerbomb came out. It has to do with wrestling, and it's pretty awesome. Has there been wrestling from the worldwide leader in sports entertainment? And WWE Superstars #1 came out in 2013. So there is I think it's a 12-issue series, WWE Superstars, from publisher Super Genius. And the writer on it seems to be Mick Foley. So I would definitely pick these up. There's two of them that are keys. One of them is #0, which is a giveaway at Hot Topic. So that's pretty scarce. And then #8, which is is it #8? No, #11. I'm sorry. #11 is homage to Secret Wars #8. And it says WWE Superstar Secret Raw, which is war backwards, right? Like, and it has Hulk Hogan in an NWO garb, mimicking the Spider-Man. And it's just, it looks pretty cool. And I mean, you got Sting on some of them. You have Undertaker. You have Roddy Piper, Gold Dust on some of them. I mean, if you're a comic book fan and you're a wrestling fan, I mean, this is a series. You have John Cena #1, written by Mick Foley. I'm gonna be looking out for these. I didn't even know these existed until I did some research on them. But it is written by Mick Foley, by best-selling author Mick Foley. So I'll definitely be looking into these, and that's my speculation. Because again, I mean, this is the only thing on here, and it's from 2013 all the way through 2015. So it ran for about 2 years, 12 issues. So that's my speculation for the week. A whole series, WWE Superstars #1 through 12, including #0, which is a giveaway, which is scarce. So that's mine for this week.
Very nice. Very nice. Well done. Well done. Jason, do you have something you want to reveal to everybody as the most underseen, undervalued comic book in the history of the world?
Well, I had something that I was going to mention, but just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying with the WWE comic books. And this is a conversation I was having with my friend Peter Melnick a while back. He brought to my attention there was a series in 1991 put out by Acclaim Comics. So we're talking WWF days.
Yep.
And he said that the artwork on that, and I haven't really dug in too much to confirm this, but the artwork on it, at least some of it, was done by Steve Ditko.
What?
He would
Really?
do some freelance work. Yeah.
Wow.
And we're kind of digging in a little bit to see if he may have done some other work with or for the company, just as far as freelance stuff. Yeah, which blew my mind that because obviously he wasn't doing anything for any of the big two at that point, just completely sitting in his hole in his apartment writing angry letters
It
back to
is.
people.
Oh, he did interiors for it. It's called Battlemania.
Right. So we'll go with that one. I was my other book that I was going to say that I feel is kind of undervalued, underappreciated, even though it's a pretty well-known book. And I say this only because I just picked up a copy of it myself not too long ago. Tales of the Teen Titans 44, first Nightwing, first Deathstroke. I feel like that's one of those books that, even though it's already in that, $50-$60 range, I feel like that's one that, especially if they work Nightwing or Deathstroke for that matter into the new DCEU, I feel like that's a book that could get a little bit of heat and a little bit of steam behind it. It's pretty easy to pick up right now.
There ain't nothing wrong
and
with
it's
that.
such a
Yeah.
and it's such a cool cover, right? Like,
For sure.
let me see. Let me double check it.
That iconic Judas Contract cover.
Yeah. You said which one? The New Teen Titans number 44. Yeah. Yeah, that's such a cool cover. Even though he has that funny what's it called? What is it called? Superhero uniform on the left. What's his name? What's that guy?
Jericho?
No. Both of these guys on the left and the right, like Deathstroke is obviously the guy that sticks out, and he looks
Sure.
cool. But the other two guys are like
Deep V.
Yeah, there you go. Those
Deep
guys.
V.
Yeah, but this is a cool cover. I've always enjoyed this cover. I don't think I have this book, but it is on my list of ones to give for the same reason, because I do think that there is a lot of upside in this book. So that's a really good choice.
Very, very nice. Thank you, Jason, for that. I am going to go with, and I was thinking in terms of our guest as well, Jesus, but you and I, where we, we're zigging at the same time, but then we also kind of zag because you went the wrestling route, and I went the X-Men route because I know Jason is a big X fan, which he has illustrated throughout the whole thing. But I'm going to go with it's a book that it's been hot, it's been cold, it's been hot, it's been cold. I mean, this thing has been on, if you want to talk about a comic book that's been on a roller coaster the last couple of years, this one might take the cake. I've seen this book go as high as like $700 for like a really pristine copy. And I've also seen it where you can get it for like $10 at, your LCS. I'm serious. It is 100% my favorite cover and probably my favorite copy of X-Men, just bar none. Because of the cover and the character, the first appearance of Omega Red. That is X-Men number 4. Jim Lee, the cover on it is gorgeous. So it is my favorite cover with Wolverine on there and Gambit, and this cover right here screams my childhood, right? Like, I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I didn't even go to LCSs that often, and I just can't help but see this book on a shelf in my head. Like, every time I see it, I just picture it in a comic shop in my head that I remember as a kid. And the thing is, it came out in 92. Hell, I don't even know if I actually ever really saw it on a shelf in 92. But you can get this, seriously, still. Omega Red is such a popular character. People were going nuts when they thought the character was going to show up in Black Widow, I think it was. Or it was either Black Widow, or people thought he was going to show up in WandaVision. People thought he was going to show up in the Doctor Strange. Like, he's been rumored for literally every MCU project ever. So it's funny enough that he's rumored as well for Deadpool 2, which I don't even, I mean, he may or may not show up. If you have a collection, if you're a collector, right, you're the air quotes, collector, and you don't have X-Men 4 in your collection, I mean, do you even lift, bro? Come on. So let's, I'm just going to throw this out there, though. From a speculation standpoint, this thing has a roller coaster ride when it comes to up and down. And I think this is a really fun moment to grab it now, because I think it's going to go up again. And if you're interested in flipping, making 20, you can buy these in bulk, by the way. There's tons of them out there. So you could get 10 of them, pay $5 a pop, and then flip them all for 50 when they get high, if you're interested in that sort of a game. But for me, I have my copy. I've got a 9.8 newsstand copy. It's nice, pristine. It's protected behind a case. And I have no intentions of selling it. It's just kind of one of my true comic book loves. So I'm speculating on that one. And I know Jason is going going to like that because I know he's an X guy. So
Such a great iconic cover too, like you said. Just that little tease of the tendrils. If I'm thinking of the right cover, it's
yes,
Yep.
just the tease of the tendrils with the classic team in the background.
yep.
It screams everything that was great about the '90s X team,
Oh yeah,
and a good book to boot.
Yeah, and great writing, right? It's
Fantastic. It just, that whole era was just so good, and that was maybe the peak of it.
I mean, this was 92, so I feel like it went on for a little bit longer, but I do think that this was just the cover really is just sort of encompassing of how incredible that era was, right? And we were just about to, right before this, we were just about to get the animated series, I think, was really upcoming, and everything X-Men in the 90s. It was just, to me, some people want to go to X-Men 1 because obviously they sold 100 billion copies of it. But for me, it was X-Men 4. So that's my spec. I don't know if it's a dark horse kind of spec, but it's my spec, and I love it.
Man, I think that's a good one. I mean, I love Omega Red. Unfortunately, I sold my pristine 9.8 newsstand with the custom label. I mean, unfortunate or fortunate, because I think I timed it perfectly, and now I'm looking at this 9.6 that I'm gonna get for pennies on the dollar. So
Nice.
yeah. But yeah, that's a really good one. And I mean, so many cool. I mean, you're talking about Omega Red, who's probably gonna be out there. I've heard Mr. Sinister as well,
Nice.
coming at some point. They're just cool villains from the 90s that I really enjoy and I really like. So that's a good one, Jake. Good job, man.
Thank you very much.
Giving you one tater for that one.
Nice. I earned the tater. We don't normally do taters for this segment, so as the only individual to earn a tater for this segment, I apparently won. That is going to do it for the show. This is we made it through the first episode of season 3. Jason, I cannot tell you how grateful we are for you joining us. I know that you've got a very busy schedule and all things WWE, potatoes are a wonderful vegetable kind of thing. But but in all seriousness, thank you so much for joining us. It really has been, it's a pleasure to, finally get to chat with you and to really talk comics. This was really fun.
That pleasure was all mine, guys. I really appreciate you having me on here. And if you don't mind me plugging my socials for a second.
Absolutely.
Feel free to get at me, continue the conversation, guys. Jason Ayers, WWE, on every form of social media that ever existed known to man. I might even still have my MySpace profile at this point. Stay tuned, because I will be looking at launching my Twitch stream here before too long, and try to get some comic conversations going on there while I play a few comic related video games. And in the interim, you can catch me every Friday night at 8:00 on Fox TV for Friday Night SmackDown. I'm the jerk in the stripes, the only one with a beard.
Hell yeah, he is. Jason, if there's ever anything that we can do to help you promote what you're doing, or when you get on Twitch or anything like that, you just let us know. Otherwise, I think you're probably doing pretty good for yourself just every Friday night on national television. So I think you're fine.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome. And everybody out there who's listening in, thank you so much for listening to the first episode. Once again, we're doing an episode every week. I know last year we were kind of getting into the once every other week kind of thing. That is out the window, everybody. We are back to every week. Come back in a week and we're going to have another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to reach out to us, you've got all of our connections on social media, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever it's called now. And you can also reach out to us, spectalespodcast@gmail.com. We will talk to everybody very, very soon. Catch you next week.